handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power.
And now, broadcasting live on GMN from an undisclosed location in the Arizona desert. Italian by birth, American by choice. Songwriter, poet, freedom activist, Luca Zanna with Love, Guns, and Freedom.
All systems go.
Don't tread on us.
Here we are. This is our number one, Love, Guns, and Freedom, and we talk about rights. It's very important. I always believe that if you're ignorant, you have no rights. Because if you don't know they have rights, how can you even defend your rights? So I believe that the beginning, the principle of freedom comes with property. There is a lot of, let's say, a lot of thinkers behind, philosophers, and also our founding fathers always understood that the first bastion of freedom is connected to private property. I've been listening from different sources, friends, family, about this concept of land patent. And I would like to learn more. You know, I'm trying to find people who have been trying to exercise the right of own property. I mean, really owning the property, because you know that after all, what happens that you think you are a landowner or a property owner, but the moment that you stop paying the rent, the property taxes, I consider the rent to the king, you pretty much, your property is gone. So I would like to investigate and know a little bit more about this land patent, and I found an interesting gentleman from Wisconsin that has a little more experience than I have, for sure, and he will try to open my brain and put some new information that, of course, I always invite everybody to research, investigate, and make your own conclusion. I have just a little opening to let you know that this show is not about legal advices. We're not trying to give you legal advices, since nobody's also a lawyer here, but we're just sharing personal, private opinion. Dan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Very good. You think I was clear enough with my English grammar and accent or what I'm trying to do here?
Well, I certainly think so, and I couldn't agree more. Private property is one of the pillars of freedom. Without it, what can you hold on to? How can you, as the Constitution would say, for instance, have any hope of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? I hate to use the adage, money makes the world go round, but try living without it sometime.
Perfect.
So you're absolutely correct in that. And then there's another aspect that goes right along with it, and that's the enforcement of contracts.
Yes.
And both of those things I'm hoping we'll have a chance to talk about in the course of this program.
Yes, we will. Before we start, I would like to introduce a little bit yourself. I mean, first of all, spell us out your first name, last name, where you're from, what is your background, even your age if you want, just to know you a little more as a human being, because you're here trying to share your information, and we would like to know a little bit also about you. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, first, I'd like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity, because this issue, I've been trying to present it to as a number of people, or many as I can, and I consider it, one of the best tools that we could have to regain private property rights. But at any rate, my name is Dan Poppy. I'm from Waterloo, Wisconsin, and I guess my story would go something along the lines of this all began a number of years ago with a case of a power company looking to put power lines through property that I owned. So basically, this is an eminent domain case beginning. And what had initially happened was, obviously, nobody wants to have high voltage power lines 18 feet off of their home.
And by the way, excuse me, Dan, just to interrupt you 1 second, besides the aspect of property rights that I think is very important, let's not forget that especially these high-power electric lines or even fault lines, they have proven that they have a very high cases of radiation or electromagnetic fields that they are connected to leukemia and other diseases.
Right, exactly. Childhood leukemia was a big concern of ours, and literally the power lines are, within 50 feet of, at the time, my daughter's still in the same room.
Wow.
And she's, she was, I think it was 10 years old when the lines went in. But yeah, this was a big concern. And what had happened at that point is a number of people, you could see how the process was going to go. Typically in an eminent domain case, there's a lot of grumbling and griping. Sometimes the county even gets involved. They don't really want to have it happen, but I think that's all kind of window dressing. Mm-hmm. And it became very clear that they weren't pursuing the real root issue, and that's who owns the property. I mean, you've hit on it. If you're paying rent, do you really own it?
No.
So I would go back to the issue we're going to be talking about is land patents. And the way this started is somebody had introduced me to him. Actually, I was familiar from a number of years earlier. Somebody had brought it up, but you just kind of ignore it. It wasn't that important. Well, then somebody else brought it up again when this issue of eminent domain was coming into play for us. Mm-hmm. And I got some advice from somebody, and I started to do some research in the internet. And a lot of people,
yes.
I've seen a lot of the cases. I've done a lot of research on the individual cases. Land patents were kind of a big deal. 10, 15 years ago, people were trying it, but what they were doing is they were walking into a courtroom and they're saying, land patent. And the judge would look at them cross-eyed. First off, if he really even knew, he was going to ignore it.
Yes.
That's the bottom line with it. So it was sort of like, I utter land patent and all the judiciary is going to back off and leave me alone. Mm-hmm. That's not how it's going to work. And it gets worse than that. There were a number of court cases. There were a number of sites, people going off on tangents. If you go out on the internet, for instance, that were just downright plain wrong. And if you were to cite the cases, if you were to do anything, you were actually going to damage your case. Mm. So that kind of became apparent. And what it really came down to is there's no way in the world I was going to walk into a courtroom, because basically, in order for me to stop the eminent domain proceedings, the condemnation proceedings, I had to file a civil suit. Mm. That's what the statute says.
Yeah.
So I did, and how that all worked out, we can maybe get into a little bit later. But the bottom line is, I wasn't about to go into. First, if you aren't going to get a lawyer to do this, they aren't about to risk their bar, their license.
When was that? Can I ask you? When did it happen? This case? How many years ago? This eminent domain case?
Gosh, it's within 10 years, but it's been over 5 now. I'd have to go back and get the exact date on it.
Just approximately.
But yeah, it's been a number of years, about 5 or 6 years, I would guess, something along those lines.
Okay. So, and the point now, you're going to tell us exactly, first of all, if you can, the origins, of this land patent. When we had that right, and if we still have this right,
Absolutely. Again, I would caution, if you go out on the internet and look at this, there's a lot of hooey out there. It's just false. And my thought was, if I'm going into a courtroom to defend this, I'm going to own this information. In my mind, I'm going to know it's factual, and I can defend it at that point.
Yes.
So basically, that's how we started it. So I guess the first thing we want to do is let's talk about what a land patent is. We use the expression, it's generally accepted. But the bottom line is, a land patent is the original grant of land from the federal government to a private owner. And sometimes that private owner would be a state, and then the state would subsequently give other grants out to other people. I think the Swamp Act was another case, where the states actually got the land because nobody really wanted swampland, and then the states would grant that out under various conditions. But the bottom line is, land did pass to the territories by cessation because of the Revolutionary War. So at that point, then, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to form a federal government. So the land will be ceded by the states or territory, by the states, basically the colonies, to the federal government. In our case, our particular area, the Virginia cession was the big one. That's who ceded the land to the federal government. Now, this was all done under the understanding that the federal government wasn't going to hold on to this land. It was going to be given out because they knew they had a new country. They wanted this country to expand, and they were going to need people to develop the land, to work the land, to produce an economy, a viable country, basically.
Yes.
So the way the land was going to be distributed was by various acts of Congress, and there are a number of them, and that ultimately concluded with the issuing of land grants or land patents. Okay. Now, so what is a land patent? Well, the land patent or grant is the original grant to the first individual owner of the property in this country. But what else is it? All right? It's a contract.
Mm-hmm. Between whom? Between whom?
It's a contract between the federal government and the original owner. He had to do certain things. He paid a price for it. There were certain expectations. This has all of the earmarks of a contract. And don't take my word for it. There was a Supreme Court case, and I can give you cases that where the majority opinion basically called it a contract. This is a contract, and there's one I'm going to quote because it's a very important case.
Okay.
But at this point, so is the issue is okay. So it's a contract between the United States and some party, hundreds of years ago. No, it's between the landowner in perpetuity. The contract lasts forever. It was granted before states had eminent domain statutes. Okay, so this contract, I should give you a little bit of an upfront comment. At one point, I'd gotten some information. It was a series of questions that was written to the Nevada Region Bureau of Land Management. It was a series of questions asking about land patents. All right. Now, this was an older document. I think it was like the 1990s. So I decided I was going to take those same questions and I was going to submit them to the Bureau of Land Management for the eastern states in Springfield, Virginia. And there's basically 5 questions. I'll just go. They're very short.
Go ahead.
The first question is a federal land patent a legal document in the state of Wisconsin? Yes. Answer: yes. Patents are legal documents of conveyance issued by the federal government pursuant to laws pertaining to the disposal of the public lands of the United States or of an interest therein.
Wow.
Question 2. What are the rights, privileges, and immunities of the patent holder? Basically, that's what's known as the habendum clause in the actual grant, and it just basically says that this person has I should not mess this one up, so I'll give you an abbreviated sentence here.
Please go ahead.
See here. To have and to hold the same together with all the rights, privilege, immunities, and appurtenances of whatsoever nature thereunto belonging unto the said, in my case, the original landowner was Elisha Foster Crosby, to his heirs and assigns forever.
Wow, forever.
It's a contract in forever. It's a contract in perpetuity to whomever owns the land.
Wow.
It's as simple as that. It's a contract. And the Constitution guarantees the sanctity of contracts.
Yes.
That's why contracts are so very important along with the private property ownership. Because, if they're not going to honor the contract, what good is the land patent?
Exactly. Question.
So that's basically what it is. And there's a number of other questions that were asked of the Bureau of Land Management. Do the rights, privileges, immunities include immunity from collateral attack? That's an important question. And their answer is, we concur with the statement made by our Nevada State Office. The only party withstanding to attack the title conveyed by a federal land patent is the United States.
Wow.
Such attack can only be made successful if fraud can be proven against the patentee in obtaining the patent. In other words, the United States can't even attack it unless they can prove fraud.
Exactly. So for sure, not the state or not the county or the city government.
Absolutely, and it's interesting you would go down that path because basically what you've done, and where the most recent attacks, and I would argue some of the most insidious attacks, are coming out of zoning ordinances.
Yes,
that is a collateral attack on the property rights conveyed by the contract. It's as simple as that. Agenda 21 could be defeated easily if we had a population that understood their property rights.
Exactly. Before we go ahead, I was going to ask you a question to understand also the chronological time of all this, because let's say we went to, started the revolutions, 1775, 1776, we fought against the British, against the crown, and then finally we got a moment of a break. We became these United States of America, and we know very well that during the crown, during the time of the king, the king owned all the land, okay? You were pretty much at the privilege to maybe rent, to have, you were given for a moment that land as some sort of a payoff for kissing his butt. But regardless, after when we became America, okay, when we started this form of land patent contract, can you individualize exactly the time frame?
I'm actually searching right now to find the date on my particular ones here. There were the acts of Congress that authorized it were made during a course of years. It wasn't a single moment or a single year in time.
Okay.
For the federal government held on to a lot of land for a long time. Let's see, what would be another? I think in the case of the War of 1812, for instance, a lot of land. There was a granting of land to officers and maybe even some enlisted men that served in the war. So there was a series of acts of Congress that basically initiated the various tracts of land to be granted out under various conditions. Now, I'm trying to...
No problem.
And it's a number of presidents that did it. I mean, it really did span quite a few years.
If you don't find it now, don't worry about it. I was going to ask you just to have an idea when, which part of history. As I understand now, it's 1800 was pretty much the first part. But question now is, every land, or at least most of the, let's say, places, land that now technically we think we own in our cities, counties, do you think could apply this idea of land patent? I mean, or there are some restrictions?
Even in the cities?
Even in the cities. So let's say
absolutely.
Some states,
absolutely.
Are there out there some states that have more better ground to implement this right of land patent, or there are some states that are all the same, or we have all the same opportunity to pretty much demand this right? I mean, for example, I know that there are some states they may have a little, I don't know, for some, maybe the western states or state like Texas. Is there any specific state that could have more of this right?
Yeah, I know there's some speculation that Texas retained some increased level of sovereignty with their land, I guess I'm not probably able to comment on that. I don't know enough about it. I've seen some arguments to that effect.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, with the land patents, it's universal. I mean, these were granted out to individuals. One of the things that got somebody in trouble when they realized what they had here, and I can't remember the guy's name. I think he's out in California, and he used the SUMA case. The problem with the SUMA case, and it's a big one if you go on the web, you'll see it, is that dealt with coastal waters. Federal waters. Yes. And it really didn't deal with the property rights that were transferred from just a plain Jane land grant, for instance. What this individual did was he suddenly decided he's going to go out and start claiming all the property under land patents. He was going to claim the land patent rights, which got him into big trouble. That's not the way it works. Believe it or not, it's much more sensible than that. If you look at what happened in the mortgage industry, one of the complaints was that the mortgages are supposed to be filed with the county. The counties basically are the people who are supposed to keep track of who owns what in the county, the property, and they need to keep track of who has mortgages on the property and who's issued the mortgages, etc. Well, with this latest round of securitizing stuff and slicing and dicing it, the counties couldn't keep track of this. It turned into a complete fiasco. All right. So the way that this works, and this will come out in another court case that I'll talk about a little bit later. It used to be that you would have an abstract done on the property, and abstracts are really important. If you don't have one, I suggest you do go out and spend some money and get one. What we have today is what's called title insurance. Now, I'm not exactly sure what title insurance insures for, but I can tell you this: it doesn't guarantee good title. If somebody comes in with better title, you're not going to hold on to the property. Wow. So what would happen with an abstract is it literally traces property ownership from the original grant by the United States all the way through to the present owner. And it does something else. Because it's not like the land just passes uniformly every time. It could, and then probably in most cases it does. But you can contract away certain property rights. For instance, a lot of the original grants given by the government, the federal government retained mineral rights. Yes. They thought that they were necessary for the use by the country, so they would withhold transferring mineral rights on certain tracts of land. All right. What would an individual have presently that's similar? Easements. Easements are recorded at the county, and they're associated with the property. That's why an abstract is important, because you can contract away rights. But if you haven't done that, if the abstract doesn't show that, you haven't contracted any rights away. Or I'm sorry, nobody in the chain of ownership, has contracted rights away. Or if they have, it will show up in the abstract. That's the whole point of an abstract. So an abstract is an important document to get, despite the fact that most counties are, certainly most
so if I can
county corporate councils will poo-poo it. They'll think they don't, they're not necessary, or there's some sort of a...
Then I would like to 1 second to sum it up for our listeners, because it's a lot of information. First of all, what is a land patent, okay? Let's say it's a contract, first of all, between the United States and the original grantee of the patent, okay? And also this is forever. That's the most important thing. Now, when we say the original grantee of this patent, we're talking about anybody could be this grantee, correct? I mean, it doesn't say...
Well, he's not... No, the original grantee is the original grantee. It's whoever it went to first.
Gotcha.
But in the addendum clause, it says to his heirs and assigns forever.
Okay.
I'm an assign.
So let's say
and assign is basically a transfer of title.
The state of Arizona, let's say this part of Arizona where we live, okay? Let's say Mojave County right now, or your part in Wisconsin. Technically, that part of land where you claim that you own, and you want to reclaim this alloidal title or this land patent, must have been... Go ahead.
Be careful with the term allodial.
Tell me why, because I'm...
Okay, and I'll also say something. I am of the opinion that allodial was the way it was intended to be owned. Okay, for those who don't know what allodial means, or holding property in allodium, you're sovereign on the nation. What that really means is, here in practical sense, you can't have property taxes assessed against you. You own the property. It's as simple as that. You own the property. Now, that doesn't mean you can commit crimes.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a difference between criminal law and the civil or administrative stuff that they're kind of throwing at the property owners. You can't commit a crime, or what's known as a criminal offense, on your property. Say, hey, I'm a sovereign.
No, of course.
That you can't do.
You're still under this.
But basically, an allodium, you own the property.
Yes,
no real estate.
That's what I meant. It means as owning the property. Now, listen, pretty much, we're going to continue with the second part of the first hour, and we're going to go pretty much in more details. Exactly. First of all, if you ever were able to, my question is going to be, did you ever have the chance to have a land patent,
You mean to present it in like a court?
Yes, I mean to successfully do it, or you or somebody that you know.
No, but it sounds like, but I know, and again, there were earlier victories, I guess, in this regard a number of years ago, and I would say that you folks in Arizona probably have a better chance at it, because basically what it's going to come down to for the defense is that you've got to have a population that understands it and isn't going to allow individuals or themselves to be railroaded in the courts. I would argue our courts, at best, are ignorant of it. At worst, they're criminal in their ignoring of it.
Perfect.
Ignore it.
Don't go away, Dan. Please stay there. We're going to continue the second part of the first hour. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna, and we're talking about property rights, land patent. Stay tuned. Don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. And we are back with Love, Guns, and Freedom, and this is Luca Zanna. We're talking with Dan from Wisconsin. He's an activist. I call an activist means somebody that really spent time, energy, and also putting himself out there to learn and to try to exercise his property rights. And we're talking exactly about land patent. Dan, are you still there?
Yes.
Perfect. So we were talking about, first of all, if you know anybody who was successful, because at the end of the day, exercising your rights, even when you have, for example, the Constitution, the First Amendment, that pretty much we know very well, it's there. But when you go in front of a judicial system that unfortunately is being corrupted, and the public servants that now they became pretty much a class of elite, at the end of the day, your rights are good as only if you have the guts and enough educated population to stand up for these rights, because you know very well you can bring all the court cases, all the Supreme Court cases, and all the different titles and all the different information in front of a judge. By all you have to say, you know what, I just send you the SWAT team, and that's all you're going to get out of this. And at the end of the day, you're going to keep your land patent, and you know what's going to happen. You're going to bring it with you, maybe to jail if you like. So my point is, first of all, we must know our rights, because otherwise we cannot even understand what we really have. And then, of course, I would like to share these rights with as many people as we can, especially in our communities. So at that point, we can pretty much show to the elected people, they're supposed to represent us, that we know what is true, we know our rights, and when we have enough people that we can reach critical mass, we can stand up for our rights in a peaceful way. That's the point, because otherwise you're going to always be singled out like the person that is the crazy person that doesn't want to pay his fair share, or the Timothy the gay, or this sort of strange. They try always to single you out. That's the point. Instead, it's supposed to be every one of us. We are not slaves. It's our land. Why I should keep pay for a rent and ask a permit every time I want to move something around? So my question to you is: Did you try to apply for a land patent, correct?
Well, I didn't. I didn't just try to apply. Basically, what we had done is we put together, and I should point out something else. There's another aspect of a contract that's important, and I'm not going to go into all the court cases and citations, but the bottom line is you have to accept it. Okay, it's a contract. You have to accept it in its entirety. Okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, everybody would accept it, right? Well, would you accept a piece of property if somebody gave you a piece of property that was a toxic waste site, and then suddenly you had the liability for cleaning it up? Mm-hmm. No, you have to accept it. And all that means from a land patent standpoint is somehow you have to give indication that you understand what these rights are and you're claiming them. Mm-hmm. All right. So what we had done is we filed a little cover sheet, and this is what, when you get into a courtroom, they'll refer to this as superfluous or frivolous. I'm sorry, they'll refer to it as frivolous. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, they'll say it's frivolous and that it has no legal. It carries no legal weight, for instance. Okay. Well, that's true. It doesn't carry legal weight, but what it does is it indicates that you have accepted a contract, which does carry legal weight.
Of course.
Okay, they'll play those kind of games with you.
Yes.
All right. So you've accepted the rights. So in my case, what ended up happening is we put together this little thing. We went down to the county and we filed it. All right. Now they were a little reluctant, and their corporate counsel. Yes, everybody in every county is a corporation. I don't know if your listeners know that. Yes. Every sheriff's department is a corporation. Mm-hmm. They're listed on Dun & Bradstreet. All you have to do is look them up. Okay, that should give you a little warning about what's going on.
Yes.
But the bottom line is, the corporate counsel let us file it with the county because it was associated with land. That has not been the case universally, even in Wisconsin counties. For instance, I know other people tried to do it in their county, and they wouldn't let them.
Interesting.
But my response to them was, don't worry about it. The fact that you attempted to file it indicates that you understand the property rights and you've accepted the contract. Okay, so you could defend it from that standpoint. It isn't terribly necessary, although it would be better if you were to file something with the county.
Then, 1 second only, I found a file. It's a news. It's a mainstream news, a news channel for, let me see which state. I think it's one of Oklahoma's states. Looks like Oklahoma. But let me play for you. It's like 1 minute, okay? Stay there. Don't go away, because it's something that maybe we should listen. Sometimes there is some hope, I believe. Stay there.
Yeah, and I want to write this down because this is interesting. I had not heard of this.
Property taxes, his secret, and how you could cash in on his idea. Next on Oklahoma's News Channel 4 at 5 o'clock.
What a story. An El Reno man says he's found a way to legally stop paying property taxes.
And he says every other Oklahoman should do the very same thing. He traced back the origins of his land to a land patent, a document that he claims exempts him from paying those taxes. News Channel 4's Sarah Stewart took our mobile newsroom to El Reno and has our story tonight.
Of the property has to be posted. Joe Stout has dutifully paid his property taxes for years, but he says a recently filed document now exempts him from that tax and grants him other rights like exemption from zoning restrictions and city inspections.
So I guess technically, because you say you're not subject to any zoning requirements, you could put whatever you wanted. You could put a nightclub right here if you wanted to.
I could do anything out there that I want to.
Joe spent more than a year and hundreds of dollars researching on the internet and came up with this document that identifies his land as part of a land patent signed by the president.
By the president, Glover Cleveland, 1895.
Joe says the document gives him true ownership to the land, so he promptly sent a letter to the county assessor asking he be removed from the property tax roll.
Anybody and everybody can do this.
Joe says everyone's land can be traced back to a patent. He says he's taken on the fight for fellow taxpayers.
I'm not anti-government or a nut or anything else. I would like to do something for the people, and I believe that I have stumbled upon something that will benefit everybody.
Sarah Stewart, Oklahoma's News Channel 4.
Stop paying.
Hello, are you still there?
Yep. Yes, I am.
I need to open a bottle of wine because I like to see this. This is something give me a little bit of joy, especially when I see all these government parasites that they really want you to think that you have to.
I could have one.
Seriously. So I'm telling you, this is something I stumbled just a few days ago. And, of course, I would like to do a little research. I don't know if this is a final case. I don't know if this gentleman finally really was able legally to say, okay, this is my land, leave me alone. But still, I think he brought some very important facts. He was talking about an act of Congress, was talking about a president signing something, and some pieces of legislation, like you were saying. So it's not just some crazy person trying to say, I am going to just dissociate myself or isolate myself from the rest of the country. No, he's using the laws.
Or as some would say, not pay his fair share.
Exactly.
But the thing is, the question is, how do we pay the fair share? Because certain assessments, certain taxes become enslavement. And I would argue that the real estate taxes in particular have become an enslavement. Do I think that I should be able to travel on the roads without paying for the roads? No, not at all. How you pay for those roads, I think, is important.
Exactly.
Right? How it's paid for, how it's the costs are covered is important.
And I would divide taxes into different. There are two different types of taxes. Taxes that you are forced to pay when you use the service, okay, but you still have the choice to decide if you want to use that service, okay?
Exactly.
And then there are taxes, for example, let's say the property tax. Okay, now the government, the local government, the county government thinks that just because I bought something once, it's an asset, okay? It's like it's something, it's a property. It could be tomorrow, could be also my shoes, or could be my, I don't know what, my underwear.
How about a dog license?
So now,
a dog license.
Yeah,
another example.
Exactly. I mean, just because they think that they want to justify for some good causes like education or other services, they want to force me in submission to pay some sort of a fee or tax in this case forever. Because I don't say that would be okay if I pay property taxes once. Let's say I go out, I buy a pair of shoes, they charge me the sale tax, and then that's it. It's over. They're not going to say every year, by the way, you got to pay your property taxes because you own a pair of shoes. No, I paid once and we move on. Okay, leave me alone. Same story, in my opinion, should be applied for also property. Forget about it. It would be nice that we don't pay any property tax at all. But let's say for the same type of concept, why should I pay every year a fee that is like a rent at the end of the day? If you want to make a real tax that makes sense, there would be some sort of illegality, in my opinion, would be that you pay the transaction tax once and that's it. And then you leave me alone. That would be probably the most reasonable thing. But also, let's not forget, for all the people that says, oh, but we must pay for our schools. First of all, I never heard that I must be forced into charity. If you have a bunch of kids and you want to send them to public school, guess what? Doesn't mean that I had to be forced with a barrel of a gun in my face to pay for your things. I pay for my things. I would like to do charity, of course, but doesn't mean that I might be forced in this sort of a socialistic service system. Because people that are complaining about Obamacare, I tell you something, property tax is not different from Obamacare.
That's right.
You're forced to pay for a service that you do not use or maybe you do not want. Because if I have children, I would send them to, homeschooling. I would never send them to a public school.
My children were homeschooled. They started out in a parochial school, in a Lutheran school, and then we actually pulled them out of there and we homeschooled them. And part of the reason was it became, well, I guess I won't kind of lambaste somebody, but But the issue I have with the public school system is that, frankly, the public school system is the transmission vector for the socialism that's infected this country.
I agree.
I agree.
This is true.
And unfortunately, what I'm now being forced to do, and I forget who made the quote about how immoral it is to make somebody pay for something they don't agree with. But basically now I'm forced to pay for a system that's actually educating my children's adversaries.
Exactly. It is true. It is true. That's why I believe, for all the people that believe they are conservatives, the Tea Party, or whatever they think, Obamacare is terrible. Yeah, okay. But if you are against Obamacare, that is a disaster, is a form of complete coercion against the individuality and the freedom of the individuals, you should be the same mad to a property tax that is being the same type of concept. You forced to pay for a service that you may not need or may not use. Okay, and right there. So at this point, we need to go back the way we used to have education. We used to have a different, probably the best form of education without the coercion of different type of taxation like property taxes.
Yeah,
this was.
I think one of the biggest problems is that people have finally. I think they've in a lot of ways they've given up. They see elimination of real estate taxes, for instance, as a bridge too far, and that's unfortunate because if they really saw what they had, for instance, in the original land grants and understood what it was, I would think they would have some hope because I think you folks, the people out west, they have more independent spirit, I guess, is the way I would put it. You get into some of the more liberal states. And it's you just there's no hope. I mean, well, there's hope, but it's not. It would be a struggle. I really would see the Western states kind of spearheading it because they're more independent. They're downright. They can be downright ornery and mean business.
I believe so. Then, I've been here in Arizona about 9 years now, and I realized that it's through most of the Southwest, at least even the Northwest, okay, at least the part Wyoming, Montana, the weather is not exactly what you call human-friendly, okay? We have very high temperatures and wildlife, and it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but what I think really people try to find is the last part of this world, because this is not just America. The problem is that this is the last part of the world. And I can tell you, I've been traveling around the world, and where still human beings have the right at least to fight back, because we still under a struggle. This is not clear-cut freedom at all. We are every day it's a struggle. They're trying to get our property rights, our water rights, our every right. But at least we have one right, especially in the state of Arizona. It's pretty much the strongest right we have, and I think is the best form of the Second Amendment, like it's supposed to be, what it used to be, as our founder fathers really wrote it. This is like the right to carry bear arms without any type of permit from a government. And every family, every human being here knows that at the end of the day, you can have all the rights you want on paper, but when they come and knock at your door, or when they come to try to get your stuff, you still have the right to choose if you want to be a slave or if you want to be a free man or free woman. That's why I say something right now. I know we are facing Agenda 21. I was talking with some legislators that I think they're really good, especially in the state of Arizona. They are really understanding what's going on to our property rights. And at the end of the day, I hope we can stop this tyranny, this global tyranny at our state capitals with our legislations or our counties if we have to. By the end of the day, everyone must face a question. Would you comply? As tomorrow they tell me you must put a meter. I have a private well, okay, my own well. I need to put now a meter, let's say hypothetical, because the state says so, because we must enforce some sort of international or state, I don't care which type of code. No, the point is no, I will never comply to be taxed for the water I drink, okay?
Right.
And this is so simple. I'm not a big shot. I'm not a, G.I. Joe guy. I'm a regular person, okay? But I tell you something. When you have a regular people like me, that they're ready to say, screw you. Let me say again to your face, screw you. Like we did at the Bundys. I was there on the front line with all the different ranchers, and I'm not even a rancher. I was just there as a fellow American. Say, no, we're not going to go away. And they were pointing rifles at us. And I understand that the point that when the moment that you really are ready to say, I don't care anymore, I have nothing to lose, but my dignity and my freedom is more important than my life, then when you have still rights.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the meter in the wells. We actually have counties in Wisconsin where that's done on private wells, and we aren't facing drought.
Oh my gosh!
So it's it's just kind of funny that you would bring it up. But I think where things are going to have to go. And I guess I could maybe quote the Gerald Celente made the comment, when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. When they've lost everything or have nothing left to lose, then they lose it. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Is what keeps us pacified in most respects is that we have things, and as those things start to be taken from us, and freedom is a thing, but it also manifests itself in physical things, property, various pieces of property, and as we start to lose that, then that bar starts to move down, and everybody's threshold is a little bit different, I would suspect.
Yes, then.
And they basically say, this is enough. I'm not taking it anymore. You brought up water. That was one of the issues that was always my kids and water were two issues where I would draw the line in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
It would be you better be prepared to use deadly force.
And I believe something.
Because what you're really doing is you're threatening my life, or you're threatening my children's life, and I have an obligation under God to protect my children. I'm the one who the state is not their nanny, and I'm not just some caretaker on behalf of the state. They're my children. I have a vested interest in them.
Then my point is this: we try to avoid this resort of violence, and for me, the most effective way to prevent this, when we have enough people educated, knowing their rights, our rights, and together as a community, we can stand peacefully but determined against any type of wannabe tyrant, okay? Because they can tell you tomorrow you have to jump and you must sacrifice your firstborn, like Herod did in Palestine when it was the time of Christ, okay? Doesn't mean that because it's a law you must follow it, okay? I mean, Hitler did everything by law, okay? Doesn't mean that you have to follow it. When people understand that we have rights, that they are not privileges coming from some sort of a government, and even laws can be unconstitutional, even laws can be against natural rights and natural laws, well, everybody must make their choice. Now, going back to the patent, this is just the beginning of the journey, because we're not going to find all the answers here, but what I would like to accomplish in this show is say, guys, listeners, there is more than we know. There is not more than we've been told. There is more than we've been educated, some sort of, try to brainwashed with, okay? We must wake up, and every one of us must understand that there was a different America not that long ago. For example, in Mojave County, Arizona, till 1985 or so, in the county, we didn't have to have a permit to planning and zoning, okay? There was no need like that. The code of a building code was completely zero for residential. We created this after, and still we used to live and prosper and do our own things. So the point is not because now we've been used to have this status quo that we had the last few, maybe 20, 30, 40 years, means that this was always the way it used to be. Now, just to complete this conversation about this land patent, if somebody wants to start to think to apply for a land patent, what would be the patent? What should they do?
Well, you actually you send off to the Bureau of Land Management, and they will send you certified copies of the property. You have to identify the property, and there are various ways of doing it, but actually if you go on the Bureau of Land Management site, they actually help you do it. Mm-hmm. You can give, town range and whatever for the county. You can once you identify the property from a legal description, you can use that to identify where the original grant probably, where it was issued or how it was issued. Most of these grants issued at 40 acres apiece.
Yes,
that was basically how they were going to do it. So you can certainly go down that route. But the other thing is you've got to remember a key thing, and that's that the land patent is a contract, and contracts are sacrosanct. They're protected by the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I hear a bell. Do you have to go to a break or something at this point?
No, everything's okay. We still have a few minutes. Go ahead.
Let me complete the thought. And I consider this the absolute most important legal case with respect to land patents. It's 10 U.S. 87. It's Fletcher versus Peck. Okay, this case, oh gosh, what was the year it was decided? Again, most of these cases are circa Civil War. Mm-hmm. Probably a reason for that. At any rate, this is the majority opinion on the United States Supreme Court and I'll quote 3 paragraphs. When a law is in the nature of a contract, when absolute rights have vested under that contract, a repeal of the law cannot divest those rights. A party to a contract cannot pronounce its own deed invalid, although that party be a sovereign state. In other words, even if it's a sovereign state, they can't pronounce the contract or the deed to be invalid. Continuing, a grant, that is a land grant, is a contract executed. It's not a contract to be executed. It's a contract executor. It precedes any state statute at this point. Okay? A law annulling conveyances is unconstitutional because it is a law impairing the obligation of contracts within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. This is the key case right here. This should put to rest any ordinances, any whatever, which most people don't even realize are a relatively new thing. I think that all these zoning ordinances, for the most part, in Wisconsin, came about, I think, in 1971.
Wow!
So it's not something that goes back, forever. They're pretty recent. But this court case, it's in plain and simple English. It really is the most important court case, in my opinion, regarding land patents. It's Fletcher versus Peck. You can find it online. It's not, you don't have to pay for it or anything. It's a published court case.
Very good, very good.
But yeah, that sums it up. You can't argue it. It's plain and simple language. Anybody can understand it, and it should drop like a lead weight on any court in their court or judge in his courtroom. And for some reason, the only thing I can come up with, it's a willful disregard in Wisconsin. They did.
I heard in Mojave County, I have a friend of mine that I just found out that he was successfully, at least till now, to implement this land patent, and the county seems they left him alone. So I will let you know. I'll keep you posted, of course.
I would be curious to know. I think your fellow in Oklahoma, his fight's just beginning. What he has alleged to have discovered, others have alleged to have discovered 10 years ago, 15 years ago, with varying degrees of success. Earlier on, there were more degrees. There was a group of people called Team Law. I forget where they were, somewhere out west, that were very successful in arguing this.
Yeah, and remember, also,
what happened,
with the internet, we have a chance to spread it around. Listen, Dan,
yeah.
I need to let you go because we're almost the end of the hour. I want to thank you again. I will be in touch with you, and we need to help each other. I consider you as brother in the common cause of freedom. Thank you very much, and please stay tuned, and if you have any updates, let us know. You're listening to Law, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. You're listening to Law, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. Hi everybody, this is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. I always say we need three type of friends in life. One is a dentist, one is a gunsmith, and also I believe we need a good attorney. That's why today I want to share with you, my listeners, for me, one of the best attorney that we have in Arizona, Mr. Marc Victor. My opinion is not just an attorney, but is an attorney who believes in freedom. And that makes a difference because, everybody can become an attorney, I believe. I used to be in Italy. I used to study to become an attorney. I almost was there. But the point is, when you become an attorney, you must ask yourself, what is your mission? What is your goal? What you want to do? Just to make a buck, or maybe you want to also fight for other people's rights. Marc Victor, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, Luca.
Thank you very much. We met each other in life a few years ago when I was trying to pretty much stand up against Mojave County, and there was a federal court that your firm, I was so pleased that decided to accept, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity at least to make some sort of news and to fight for not just my First Amendment, but also for everybody else here in Mojave County. So I met you in the battlefield, as I want to say. And I was very pleased with your firm. Even you didn't work directly with me on the case, but you have one of your attorneys. They were very professional, and I was very pleased. Even, of course, unfortunately, Judge Snow didn't have exactly the same opinion about the First Amendment, but that's another story. Mark, I would like to speak a little bit about you, your background, exactly what you are. You know, I know you're an attorney, but you have some specific areas that you cover as an attorney, and also your past. I mean, before you became an attorney, you know, you are a person. We are all individuals. We all have different backgrounds. I always believe we are part of our past. I mean, it's like the past recycling itself, and we transform into something new. But at the end of the day, we are what we were. Question mark, what is exactly your background? Before you decided to become an attorney, what did you do?
You know, Luca, first, let me just say it's been really such a joy being able to represent you and knowing you. There are so, what I would say, and this is unfortunate, so few people out there who really understand and fight for freedom, and it's like we're all brothers in this fight for freedom. So that's how I consider you, a brother in the fight for freedom, and I'm glad you're on the radio and you're doing your thing, and it just warms my heart. You know, we just need to energize our fellow Americans to get out there and really care about freedom. And it's a difficult fight, and you got to do tough things sometimes. But you know, freedom to me is much more important than money. And I don't mean to say money's not important. It is important. But without your freedom, who cares how much money you have? So we all need to get much more serious about the fight for freedom. And so thanks for everything that you do. In terms of my background, you know, I was in the Marine Corps. Right after high school, I joined the Marine Corps, and a very patriotic guy and pro-America and all that stuff. And slowly but surely, I started realizing that in some ways, I was kind of being sold a bill of goods. I started out, born into a family that was very liberal, Democrat type, and maybe just because I'm somewhat of a rebel, I sort of flocked to the Republican side. But I liked a lot of the things that Ronald Reagan was saying about individual responsibility. But, you know, it wasn't long before I came to conclude that this is just talk. You know, I was really attracted. I really took seriously the notion of being in charge of yourself. And it wasn't until I went to law school and met Professor Butler Schaefer that he really challenged me on a lot of things. And I kind of understood really the notion of freedom and what peacefully interacting with other people. So some people call me a radical libertarian, and I guess I accept that. But, you know, I don't find it so radical that, you know, I might say Luca's in charge of Luca, you're in charge of you, your life, your body, your property, and I'm in charge of me. And I don't find that to be so completely radical. To me, everybody who disagrees with us is radical on that point. So I consider myself first a freedom activist. My firm is, you know, I just hired somebody today, and I spoke a long time about we are pro-freedom at this firm. We fight for freedom. I'm not neutral. I take positions on things. But after a freedom activist, I'm a lawyer. That doesn't mean that I'm less dedicated to my clients or anything. It just means that I take cases and get involved in issues that kind of tickle my fancy, and I like to fight the government, and I like to support peace and freedom and all that stuff, and that's what I do. I got an opportunity to do that as a lawyer, so why not? And I've been the attorney for freedom as long as I've had my own firm.
Perfect, Mark. And just to have more ideas, when your firm is, as you said, you like to also try to help causes that are connected to freedom. But specifically, what is exactly your area of practice areas? You know, what you do, civil, criminals?
Well, primarily, I'm a bar certified specialist in criminal law. That's what I've been doing for 20 years, is fighting the government where the rubber hits the road, where they're trying to take your freedom and put you in a cage. And so that's been my primary area of focus. In recent years, I've expanded into personal injury law and civil rights because just so many cases of the government out of control that I didn't want to let them sort of pass through my hands. I wanted to be able to help these people. So I have other lawyers here who sort of specialize in that area and know a lot about it. I get involved when these cases go to trial, but on the day-to-day operations, I have other lawyers of my firm. And, you know, but I try to tie everything that I do at my firm into activism for freedom causes. And so that's a huge, I'm not ashamed to say I use my position as an attorney to fight for freedom in all cases.
Perfect. And just to have an idea, because you're located in Arizona, exactly which part of Arizona are you located?
Well, I'm in Chandler, but I do cases throughout the state of Arizona. In recent years, I've started doing cases nationally, and so we've been fortunate in that our reputation has really grown, and I've done cases all over the country, which is really interesting for me because I like to see how other states handle, certain types of crimes. And everybody thinks there's only one way, the way we do it here. And the reality is people just need to be thinking outside the box. There are different approaches to solving problems, which is one reason why having a federal government that runs everything is such a bad idea. It makes so much more sense to just devolve power down to much lower levels. I would like to see it below the state level as well. But even at the state level, one state can try something, another state can try something else, and let's just see how it shakes out. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all like the federal government is always trying to cram down our throats.
Perfect. And by the way, since now I wanted to give a pretty much a general idea of what you do, what you've been doing for all these years, and also your areas of expertise, so people also understand if you're in the state of Arizona, it's especially if you have to face some, I call it dangerous situation. Fighting for your rights sometimes can be dangerous because, you make choices, you try to make political points, and sometimes can be consequences. And I always believe you must at least have a good attorney close like yourself to try to be prepared. You don't want to be going to the cave with the lions without any type of protection. I remember there was a case, Mr. Pastor Anderson, that also I had on the show a few weeks ago. You remember the case briefly, because it was an interesting case that also you won.
Of course, I represented Pastor Anderson, and he was another freedom activist, and everybody's got their issues. His issue was this sort of border patrol type checkpoints, and not even at the border. And so he didn't want to give information. I've represented many, many activists that go through these freedom checkpoints. And in his case, he didn't want to. He just wanted to keep moving and go on his way, and didn't want to go to secondary. And of course, that devolved. A real peaceful guy, Pastor Anderson, got devolved into tased and beat by the police. And so I represented him. It was a very long, drawn-out litigation in Yuma for a long time. Ultimately, we won the case at trial. But it was really, if you look at that case carefully, it was a case study in what's wrong with our country, right from these crazy police dogs that, in my opinion, if a police officer is walking a dog, then that nullifies any rights that you had under the Fourth Amendment. That's about where the state of the law is right now, because if the handler says that the dog alerts, and that could be anything from, in Pastor Anderson's case, they testified it was a change in posture or a change in respiratory pattern, which of course can only be detected by the handler, and then that gives them probable cause to tear your car apart. And of course, in Pastor Anderson's case, they found nothing, but he had a video, and we take these cases pretty far. I've been known and have in the past on many occasions to not only win a trial but also sue the government and collect money from my clients when they're in the wrong.
Exactly, and that was for me a very important case because first of all, Pastor Anderson had the choice. He could have just plead guilty, and I think it was a misdemeanor, if I well remember. It was offered just a fine, for what I understand, a few $100s.
That's right.
Instead, he chose the hard way, I think also the courageous way, to put a lot of money out because, defending criminally, when you go in court against the government and you're fighting for your life, it's going to cost you many hours of work, many lawyers. It's a big team behind. And he chose that way just to make a point that we have rights. We have a Fourth Amendment, regardless now what the federal government's saying that we have this the Fourth Amendment free zone, like 100 miles, I guess, from every border.
Right, doesn't even apply. And the Supreme Court has basically said, look, if it happens at the border, it's reasonable. Said another way, there is no Fourth Amendment at the international border. I think we've been pretty well sold out by the court here. I don't feel like they have kept in line with what the founders of our nation have envisioned for a free society. And indeed, I was just on another radio show today, and I said I think it's I would love to say we're the land of the free, and we got a lot of songs about it, and we pledge allegiance and all this other stuff. But honestly, if we really sit down and look each other in the eye and I say, Luca, are we really the land of the free? I think if we're being honest with each other, we got to say, no, we're not. We are no longer the land of the free. And I was referencing this Fraser Institute study that looked, because one of the co-hosts on the other show said, hey, we're the freest country. What country's freer than us? He gave me the standard, just patriotic American line. And I pulled out this Fraser Institute study and said, look, according to them, and they did a very detailed, extensive study looking at political freedoms and economic freedoms and giving scores to each and averaging them. The U.S. came in 7th, which is still not terrible. I mean, but we're not the freest country. We incarcerate more people, percentage of our population, than any other country on the face of the earth, and that's just not compatible with a free society.
Exactly, and that's the point. We cannot just say we have a constitution or we have a Bill of Rights, because the Constitution and Bill of Rights, unless there are good people, men and women, willing to sacrifice themselves to defend these rights and stand for these rights, unfortunately, it is who's going to defend the Constitution? Who's going to defend the Bill of Rights? Unless good men and women, they will stand up. And I'm just saying now, in this case, also through the court, because I think that's why it's so important to have good attorneys who believe in freedom, because the first stage where we're going to have our battlefield for freedom is going to be exactly in the courtrooms. And I hope it's going to stay there. That's my goal. We try to keep it civil. And that's why I think, but we still need to have people behind that are ready to sacrifice and also sometimes make choices, because, sometimes I say, okay, I would like to buy a brand new car. Maybe I'm ready to have this money, I have a used car, but being ready to be economically free and independent to fight for our rights. Because the problem is governments always pick people, normally the weakest. And weakest means they have no the opportunities to defend themselves and stand up for their rights. That's why I think it's very important. Sometimes in life we must make choices. And I believe a good attorney when you know your rights and you're ready to stand up, it's the way to go. Now, Mark.
Yeah, and I've got to say, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I've been, frankly, I've been disappointed in a lot of my fellow lawyers. For example, here's just an example. I've had some other criminal defense lawyers sort of attack me for my position that we ought to end the drug war, simply because, as they've pointed out rather correctly, we make a lot of money off the drug war. And they say, look, I make money, you make money, we all make money off the drug war. If the drug war ends, we're going to make less money. And I say, well, that's true, but don't you think freedom is more important than money? And they're not really convinced on that point. So I've been frustrated by that. I mean, frankly, if somebody said to me, Mark, you got to pick a criminal defense lawyer to represent you, I'd have a very hard time coming up with who I would want. And so I've tried to collect, good lawyers along the way in different areas. And, of course, if anybody wants to contact me, I can give them a name of people who I think are what I'd call pretty hardcore into what they do. But overall, I've been pretty disappointed. So going to the court to fight for freedom is okay. I think it's good in the sense that it gets people to think about things. Like, for example, what Dr. Steinmetz did, it's affected public opinion. People are talking about the issue. That's good. But I do not think we are going to ever regain our freedoms in our country or really anywhere until the people who live here start changing their hearts and minds about freedom and start valuing it again. No matter what happens in the court, no matter what the Constitution says, no matter what any judge says, we're never going to regain freedom until people start valuing it again. And just like when the founders of our nation, when they talked about revolution, they weren't really talking about a military exercise. They were talking about a change in thought. And that's what we need. We need people to change the way they think in regards to the government and individuals and start getting a more of appreciation, really tolerance. I mean, need to get to the point where people say, look, even though I don't agree with what my neighbor's doing, I wouldn't do it. I disagree. I may even try to talk my neighbor out of it. I respect his or her right to do that because they're peaceful. Until we can get there, we don't deserve freedom.
Exactly. And talking about Dr. Steinmetz that you just said, I would like to, maybe you can remind in few words exactly what happened, what Dr. Steinmetz did, and then we can a little bit elaborate about exactly some basic gun laws.
Well, Dr. Steinmetz has a PhD and a medical doctorate degree, and he works as a researcher at Barrow's Neurological Institute. And so he's a well-respected guy with no priors. He's a gun enthusiast. He's got a CCW. He's got lots of training. And he wanted to make a political point by taking his AR-15 with the safety on to the unsecured part of the airport where he's absolutely permitted to do that. And so he did exactly that, took his AR-15 to Sky Harbor Airport where he went to Starbucks and ordered a coffee and sat down peacefully in one of the chairs like he was waiting for somebody with his AR-15. And, of course, the police didn't appreciate that. And I think maybe they coaxed someone into saying that at some point they were afraid and had the muzzle pointed at them, which I don't believe, and I don't think there's going to be any video to substantiate that. So they wound up arresting him on 2 counts of disorderly conduct with a firearm, which is a very serious felony. It carries mandatory prison.
Wow.
And eventually he was released, and the charges were scratched, which means that they chose not to file a complaint. But I spoke with the elected county attorney, Bill Montgomery, who told me, look, we just haven't made a decision on it yet, which I think is fair. I mean, they need to have an opportunity to review the video, and then they'll make a decision. And so I'm optimistic and certainly hopeful that they're not going to charge him with any felony crimes. And he had a press conference the other day at my law firm. Every TV station here locally in Phoenix showed up, and a lot of the radio stations and the print media as well. And he made a statement about exactly why he did what he did. But the gist of it was a political statement that peaceful people can safely carry AR-15s even to the unsecured portion of the airport without incident.
Exactly. And, this is very important because I'm, first of all, not just an advocate for the Second Amendment, as you can understand from the show, the name of the show, but also I believe that rights are like muscles. If you do not use them, you lose them. Even in the great state of Arizona, we have open carry laws. Even now we have, of course, constitutional carry laws that we can carry concealed without any type of government permit in most of the places. The point is sometimes not exercising our rights. In this case, we're talking about open carry. It may start to create a precedent, especially like a training in the wrong direction for our law enforcement, but more important, I believe, for the general population, people that may be coming from other states or they come from new generation. They forgot that it's legal, it's okay for a law-abiding citizen to carry a weapon. In this case, could be a long weapon or a side weapon like a gun, if holstered or on a sling. That's the most important. In a peaceful way, we have the right to carry a weapon. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, you're the attorney here.
Well, of course, everybody here who's not a prohibited possessor has a right to safely carry a firearm to places that firearms are allowed, and there are lots of places they're not allowed, but Sky Harbor Airport, at least the unsecured portion of it, is one of those places where you're allowed to carry a firearm. And it doesn't make a distinction between handguns and AR-15s. It just turns out that, those of us in the gun community, we know an AR-15 really isn't any more dangerous than any other handgun. And it's not an assault rifle because an assault is a type of conduct, and rifles are just pieces of metal. They just lay there. So it's more about the nature of the person who is carrying the firearm than it is about the actual firearm. And I think that Dr. Steinmetz was just really trying to make that point. So our position is that he had and I think nobody disagrees that he had every right to take his AR-15 to Sky Harbor Airport to make a political statement. Whether it was wise or not for him to do that is a completely different question. And the only factual point of contention is whether or not he ever pointed the rifle at any person.
Exactly. And if, in my little experience as I don't want to call it activist, but person that we've been doing this, we call it the Thomas Jefferson Walk. We organized it a few years ago. We walk in the park, and talking about walking with rifles, peacefully, families, older, younger, and we do a Sunday event. Thomas Jefferson always advises to his, I think it was his nephew anyway, walk with your gun. It's a good sport. It's not like a violent sport. So we walk with our rifles in Kingman or Moave County here. And the point is, when we do these events, we try to retrain our law enforcement, peace officers, supposed to be. More important, we bring video cameras. And, I'm not going to here to try to give advices, but if I would have done something like that to make a political statement, I would at least have a couple of friends with video cameras behind me to be sure that nobody can distort the message of a political statement that I'm sure and I hope Dr. Steinmetz was trying to do. Mark.
Well, certainly,
yes.
Speaking as an activist, things could have been done differently. And had I been advised about this before he did it, I certainly would have taken a different action to document exactly what he did and maybe put people on notice and those types of things. But, activism is one of those things that everybody does what they're comfortable with when they're comfortable with it.
And we live and learn. We are humans. Sometimes we make mistakes. Important thing that nobody got hurt. Important thing that it was just a political statement. Now, Mark, if people want to reach you, please give us a phone number, website, everywhere they can reach you.
I'm super easy to reach just through my website, which is just attorneyforfreedom.com. What else could it be, right? In terms of reaching my law firm, the main line is 480-455-5233. And it's probably important to note that people sometimes ask me if they could come here, put money in my trust account just in case anything happens, and I always tell them no. I always tell people I will talk to anybody 24/7, 365. If you call my firm, there'll always be a button about if it's an emergency, and if you hit that, it'll go right to my cell phone, and I'll be happy to talk to you, even without a dime. If you got an emergency, you can call me anytime on any day. That includes Christmas Day, New Year's Day. I take everybody's call whenever they come in because you just never know what's going on, and somebody's life could be affected in a good or bad way based on the advice they get right there.
Mark, I want to really thank you very much, and I really pray for the Mr. Steinmetz that everything's going to be okay. And more important, I pray that you're going to stay in the fight with us because we need you. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And that was Marc Victor, attorney for freedom. As I said, we need good attorneys. Attorneys, sometimes we are used to think it's a bad word. Yeah, it can be also a bad word. But I believe when you find a good man who believes in freedom, this man, don't forget, before to be an attorney, used to be a United States Marine. So he has a note to uphold. And that's why I think it's here now, fighting for our freedom in our courtrooms. Stay tuned, don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Luca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Luca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. Hi everybody, this is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Second hour, we talk about gun rights and guns. And we have an expert. I call him an expert because, it's true. When somebody does this professionally, try to teach others professionally, it's an expert. And we all can become experts, by the way. That's why also the purpose of the show is to learn more. And I always believe that, when you are a gun owner, especially, you must live by a higher standard. And you must know the laws, because with guns and with freedom comes responsibility. That's why today I have here with me my friend Jim Liesen from Lake Havasu, Apex Firearms. Jim, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Luca.
Very good. I call you expert because you are an expert. You spent most of your life in the gun culture as a cultural aspect, but also professionally. You teach firearms, safety, instructions, and also, skills. So I really like the aspect that is not just you trying to tell them how to shoot a target or put some holes down at the range, but also you explain the duties and also the rules and the laws that we have as gun owners, especially in Arizona, correct?
Well, I do appreciate that, and you're right. That is the goal. It would be easy just to say, here's the rule book, fill out your fingerprint card, and drop your money in the mail. And some people do that, and that's all some people need because some people already know everything. But I kind of feel that it is kind of a responsibility of an instructor to go to the next level and help people get where they need to go. So I just wish someday I can live up to the title expert. That's all.
I believe, I'm not trying to kiss your butt. The fact is, when you go out there, and of course there are different levels of experience. We never know everything, but there is a point that when we know enough that we are able to share with this information with others. That's why they come to you. Let's talk briefly, by the way, exactly what you do, because I know that you specifically do with your company in Havasu some sort of a service, not just to teach how to shoot, but also to graduate or at least qualify gun owners for the CCW in Arizona, correct?
That's correct. I'm certified by the NRA as a certified instructor, range safety officer, various certifications to teach and so forth. But I'm also certified by the United States Shooting Sports Foundation. I'm a huge fan of the NSSF. I participate in a lot of different activities with guns, competition. I'm an IPSC shooter, that sort of thing. And I also am a line coach instructor out at Front Sight, which is up in Pahrump, Nevada. And that's what really got me started. Was their method of teaching was treat people like humans, treat them with respect, and you don't have to be heavy in the gun culture. So my company, Apex Arms, is also an FFL, so we do firearms transfers and that sort of thing, but we don't do a lot of gun retail stuff because we focus on training. So we let the retail guys do their thing, and we do the training thing. And I'm certified to do that in Utah, Nevada, and in Arizona.
Perfect. And that's exactly what I was going to talk to you today, because I read you have a nice blog where you share a lot of good information on your website. And please go ahead and plug your website if you can right now so people can go to your blog directly. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. It's apexarmsaz.com.
Perfect.
And and over on the right-hand side of the menu, you'll find a blog list. And my inspiration for the blog list generally, Luca, is when I get a question a few times in a row, then I know there must be somebody else out there looking for that information.
Yes.
And so many times it comes from a myth on the internet. Like last week we talked about wasp spray as a defensive tool instead of pepper spray. And that's a myth, and it's not true. But there's good-meaning people out there buying wasp spray thinking it's going to save them in a critical life-threatening incident. So that was a blog that was this week. And then, of course, yesterday was what we talked about with this Nevada controversy based on some misinformation that's out there. So I just wanted to protect people so they don't make a mistake.
Perfect. And, today I would like to speak with you specifically about the concealed weapon permit, CCW.
Okay.
First of all, reminding a little bit the basics that we all should know as gun owners for the state of Arizona, that we have now also constitutional carry, but there are still some advantages to have a CCW, and then also start to look into this reciprocity, especially, we are living next door to Nevada and very close also to Utah. And what are the benefits, of course, to get also Utah CCW, that, by the way, I got pretty much before I got my Arizona CCW when I was still living in California. And then also to understand that there is a very important information to share when it comes down to Nevada, if you're in Arizona, and what type of permits do you need, or CCW do you need if you want to exercise concealed weapon carry in Nevada. So let's start first of all with the state of Arizona. Do you really need a CCW if you are a gun owner in the state of Arizona?
Well, you do not. There are advantages to getting a CCW, and there are also some disadvantages. The only disadvantage that I can think of is some people think that they just don't want to be on another list somewhere as a gun owner. And I respect that, because in the past couple of years, some states have released the information out to the public as to who has a CCW. So I think that's a warranted concern. But in my opinion, and in my personal life, the benefits far outweigh that negative. And here's what I mean. In Arizona, if you decide to get a CCW, you can carry in 35 other states other than Arizona.
Exactly.
So by having that, you have the benefit also of being able to carry in 35 other places, and it's the vast, geographic area of the United States. It also makes buying a gun a little bit easier and quicker. You can carry in some places that other people cannot, such as a restaurant that serves alcohol. And you wind up with the up-to-date knowledge of the law. And by knowledge, I mean the latest bits of the law. These laws change every year, sometimes more than that, and you kind of need to be up to date, and that's what we're going to talk about here with the Nevada law.
Exactly.
And the other thing, and this is a biggie too, once you have a CCW, you can then qualify to buy self-insurance or self-defense insurance. And most people don't know about that because it's a brand new product. You know, if you get in a car wreck and you can't afford to write a check for a new car, you have car insurance for that. If you have a health issue, you have health insurance to pay the difference. If you get involved in a shooting, you're probably going to have legal bills and lawyer bills and off-work bills because of a lawsuit. You're going to need bail money. You're going to need a lot of stuff, and it includes a lot of money. They now have defense insurance, and you can't get it unless you have a CCW. So that's 5 good reasons right there.
This is something new I learned today. I'm very glad that we're talking about this because, you know, I heard something about there are some different organizations for concealed weapon that they were offering some sort of a packages for legal advices or legal counsel in case you come into, unfortunately, in a gun confrontation. But I didn't know there was also an insurance exactly like this.
Well, it's a brand new product, Luca. The neat thing about it is now that there are over 11.1 million certified law-abiding gun owners with a CCW in their pocket all around the country, and since it's been happening for decades now, the actuarial people have decided, hey, this is the best demographic in the world. They don't even get speeding tickets. They're the most law-abiding people in our country, which makes us very easy to insure. We are the ones that are certified by a state that we're background checked and we're law-abiding, and we actually paid money to take a class to get better.
I agree.
So what an easier person to insure than that. So this is a brand new product. It's only been around for 5 years or so.
Wow.
And now you're starting to see more people crop up and become players in the marketplace.
Very good. You know, and this is my position about CCW. When I came to Arizona, the first thing I did, I wanted to get it because even, of course, we had open carry rights that you could open carry a gun in most of the places without any type of permit. But it gives you the extra edge, my opinion, to also in case you want to carry concealed, that I think is a very good tactical elements. You know, sometimes you don't want to advertise that you are a gun owner in that building or in that office or in that shop, you know. So I did that.
Nobody's business but yours.
Exactly. So I did that. But from another point of view, what I like very much now that we have options, because the state of Arizona is one of the few states in the union and in the world where a law-abiding citizen, a law-abiding man or woman can exercise their right to carry a weapon without government permit, because that's very important. Of course, you have some advantages, and I completely believe that there are some very good benefits to have the CCW, especially when you go into, let's say, I go to a restaurant and I don't like to leave my gun in the truck. And sometimes, unfortunately, you never know when you go in some places like that, all right, to have a gun. Of course, you need to follow the state laws. You should never drink while you're carrying a gun, especially in that establishment. But at the same time, you have extra benefits. So I believe that it's a personal choice, as much as I hate the word permit, because it's always something reminds me to be a master about me to ask a permission. But since we have also constitutional carry, it is something that is in our right. I think there are still some very good benefits to have a CCW in the state of Arizona. Speaking about, for example, areas, you know, let's say when you go on BLM or you go in some areas like state parks, if you have a CCW, that can give you some extra benefits or advantages.
Well, the places you're not allowed to carry are listed. In fact, you can go to, I actually use usacarry.com as one of my go-to sources, because when people ask, well, can I carry here or can I carry there? I like to train them to go find this information themselves quickly, because they also make really good phone apps for that.
Yes.
Because you're right, as you're traveling around, even Arizona, what if you went into Lake Mead National Recreation Area, or you crossed over into Navajo Indian Reservation?
Yeah.
You need to know those rules as you go, and they do change frequently.
Yes.
So it's important to stay up to date on that. And when you go, in fact, the website to go to for the most easy to access information about Arizona law is the Arizona DPS website. Under the concealed carry laws, they have a frequently asked questions section. That's azdps.org.
Perfect.
Or, I'm sorry, .gov.
.gov. I will post that on the website.
They'll tell you where you can and can't carry in a nutshell form, and also in a long list form. The bottom line is, you can't carry a gun where you wouldn't expect to. You can't carry a gun at a school grounds unless under very certain, specific reasons. Commercial nuclear plants, military places, Indian tribes, unless you have unless you're law enforcement or unless you're hunting, and those are certain things. Certain national parks, correctional facilities, airports. Places you wouldn't expect to carry a gun, you can't carry a gun. And that doesn't matter if you're CCW or not.
Exactly. So, you got to know everything can change very quickly, and that's why there is, unfortunately, no excuse for ignorance, And it's sad because I understand sometimes people make mistakes, do mistakes in a innocent way, but still, you're going to get stuck with very bad criminal charges if you don't follow up what's going on. That's why I think it's important to also especially understand that we live here in the tri-state area, very close to Nevada, that many of us, for example, even myself, when I go to front side to train, I had to follow the changes. I remember a few years ago, we had a reciprocity with our CCW from Arizona with the Nevada CCW. Then things changed. And then at that point, we have to be careful because, if you get pulled over while you're driving your car, you have the gun on yourself, and even open carry, but you're putting it in a concealed way, that would be a felony, correct? Could be a felony?
In the state of Nevada, carrying concealed without a proper CCW is a Class C felony.
Wow.
And in the state of Nevada, when you go to look up what their laws mean and what their penalties are, it says you shall be guilty of a 1-year prison sentence.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a big deal, and people don't realize how. And in one state it might be a misdemeanor, in another state it might be a felony.
Wow.
I actually met somebody who was charged with a felony for concealed carry by accident. He thought that his concealed carry had reciprocity, and it didn't.
Oh, my gosh.
He had to pay legal fees to have it pled down to a misdemeanor.
Wow.
So I take it very seriously, and you're right. We live in a tri-state area. Many of us go across the border to Laughlin. That's in Clark County, Nevada, and we go to Vegas to shop, or we go through Vegas to go somewhere else. And you definitely have to be up on those laws. And here's an interesting little problem. If somebody took a CCW class more than 2 years ago in the state of Arizona, they were probably told, and rightfully so, that you also had reciprocity with Nevada. Because for a couple of years' time, we had that access to Nevada. But in March of last year, they did an annual conference, as all states do, and they took Arizona off the list.
Sad.
So if you're not up to date on the laws, you may not know that that's changed. And that's what happened to my friend.
Wow.
So it's very important to keep up on it. One of the things that's happening controversially now is that there are people saying, well, get your Utah permit because starting in January, the Nevada and Utah people will be copacetic and liking each other. And it turns out that that's just not factually true. So I hate to say it's a buyer beware situation out there, but it's just so hard to keep up on 50 different states' laws, too. But it just kind of goes to show you kind of have to make sure you're getting your information from a good source.
Yes, and that's why, with all sometimes we make mistakes too. At least I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to catch up and trying to learn and trying to share, these as much as we can because it's a very vital information. This is, for me, probably as important as shooting straight, because if you get caught in a wrong place with a wrong, act, you're not doing the right thing, you're not following the law, unfortunately, we know very well. Sometimes we live with different standards. If you have some politicians out there that they're allowed to do federal crimes and nothing happened to them, and then we have a poor working man, with family, and he does an innocent mistake, and his life is going to get ruined for the rest of. Seriously, it's terrible to have a felony on you, and not only going to jail, but lawyers, as you said, but also think about it. The rest of your life, you may not even have any more the gun rights. They may completely. It's terrible. So that's why I think it's important. Talking about, do you also offer services to qualify for the Utah CCW?
Yes, we do. We were qualified a year ago to do that, and I teach that as a separate class. But it can be done at the same time as the Arizona, and it has to be. It's delicate because in the one class we have to go over that state's law, and then in the Utah class we have to go over the Utah state's law and why they're different and how they apply. The good news is many of those things overlap. So what I do is I teach the Arizona class generally because that's what people want. And then for the people that want to do the Utah, I have to schedule a separate time for perhaps 2 or 3 hours to go over the differences in the Utah permitting process and then send them on their way. Or vice versa. We can do the same thing by teaching the Utah class, and then we have a supplement for Arizona. But it's very common that people want both. And here's the kicker. If you have your Arizona CCW, which is one of the easiest and best ones to have in the whole country because of the 35 other states let you carry, if you add Utah, you add 2 states. You add Minnesota and Washington.
Wow.
So if you travel to those places, or if you're a snowbird and you do a lot of winter traveling to Arizona, and by the way, that happens a lot. All winter long, we have a lot of snowbirds because one of the things on their list to do while they're here is get their Arizona card because they travel so much. So the only reason you want to get a Utah to spend the extra $100 to get it is, and I say that because the fee from the state is $57 and you got to pay to get the instruction. But if you pay to get Utah, you're adding the state of Washington and the state of Minnesota.
Wow.
There's no other benefit, but if those are of value, then that's a benefit.
Yes, and of course our Arizona CCW does it have a reciprocity in Utah?
Yes, Arizona and Utah are already happy partners.
Perfect. Okay, so at least we have pretty much the good benefit would be you add 2 extra states. And you never know. One day may have an extra state too. Like maybe one day Nevada will be back to have some sort of reciprocity with Utah, hopefully.
Well, funny you mention that. There's only a couple of ways that can change. And I happen to have in the last 24 hours been on the phone with several state of Nevada officials and several officials in Utah. The state of Nevada says very clearly in their state law, you shall take a class that's approved by Nevada, and it shall be conducted inside the state boundaries of Nevada.
Wow.
And it shall have a shooting component. You have to have a shooting test. Now, there's only a handful of states that are reciprocity with that. If you got a state, I think, let's just say state Alpha Bravo. If Alpha Bravo has the similar standards, then they'll take that as a reciprocity. And there's a short list of Nevada reciprocity states. But if you want to get your Nevada CCW, you have to get it in Nevada. You have to take the instruction there. And you have to have a shooting class. So when I talked to the state officials at the sheriff's, the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, they actually said, we aren't planning on pushing any changes to that. We want the standard to be that high.
Yeah.
Then when I called Utah, I said, are you guys going to have a shooting standard anytime soon? They said, oh, heck no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And Arizona just got rid of that shooting standard a couple years ago. That's why Nevada dropped us.
Got it. I understand now.
Well, unless that's changed in the state of Arizona or Utah or Nevada, it isn't going to change at least for the next 18 months because that's the next legislative cycle.
I understand. Okay, so guys, in case you're planning to go to Nevada, you're a gun owner, be careful.
Carry open. You're allowed to carry open in Nevada.
In some areas, though, some part, I know that they don't have some sort of like preemptive state laws like in Arizona. Every community, every county, or even town or cities, they can create their own different laws, correct?
They can, and currently what you got to watch out for is Clark County removed that standard. So in the state, in the Laughlin and Las Vegas, you can carry open. That's changed since the last couple of years, but that's good news. The city of North Las Vegas still says no guns, and they don't care if you have a CCW. They really don't like guns.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and quite frankly, you don't need to go to North Las Vegas anyway. It's a pretty dangerous place.
I agree.
If you want to go vacation in Compton, California. It's safer. However, if you do want to stay on the interstate and get to Utah, you can continue traveling while on the interstate with your gun. But don't get off that interstate. They consider that a federal highway, so it doesn't count in the city of North Las Vegas. But my advice is, and you hit it on the head, you got to be aware of what those rules really are. And the other thing, too, is open carry in Nevada means open carry, you have to be able to see the whole gun and holster. That's a difference, a little nuance in Arizona, too, where it's some part of the holster has to be visible. So it's just one of those, be cautious when you go, and be very grateful we live in the great state of Arizona where we still have a Second Amendment we can believe in.
Exactly, I agree. Listen, I really appreciate your input, your sharing your information, and I invite everybody, every gun owner, at least to do their own researches, because of course we're not trying to give you any type of legal advices here. We're just sharing information, but you need to verify it. Every time can change. Every day can be different. So please, one more time, Jim, I would like you plug one more time your website, because I hope more people come to you and they're going to get the real training that we all need. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that. Take a look at let me try again. ApexArmsAZ.com. There's a lot of information there about all of our classes and comments and so forth, but the blog is where you're getting this topical information as well.
Perfect. So listen, stay tuned. Don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. Don't forget also to go to lovegunsfreedom.com, and on today's show, you will see all the different links that we're talking about. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
Well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Our fathers gave us freedom and the right to defend it. Politicians, United Nations, it won't change the Constitution of our nation. We are free people, and for freedom we'll fight. We'll never give up our right. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time, getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit FreedomLovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really live.
This is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. Don't forget also on lovegunsfreedom.com. This is the third hour, final hour of the show, and today, final hour, as you know, we talk about love. We've been talking already about recipes and food. This is for me one of the most part of the show that I love the most, because it's about freedom love in singles, not just from America, but also from around the world. The idea of this show is to give the opportunity to people who believe in freedom to know each other, to find each other. Don't forget that our website, freedomlovers.us, it's an opportunity for free for everybody who wants to meet like-minded people. And even if you're single, of course, especially if you're single, to maybe find your soulmate. So you can go to freedomlovers.us and create a free account. And of course, you don't need to be a single. You can also just be looking for a friend, just to network or to find like-minded people. We started last Sunday to meet an individual, a man, who believes in freedom, that also is looking for companionship, for love, hopefully. And we found somebody also crossing the ocean. We don't need just to think that freedom is just something that belongs only to America. I believe that especially countries from around the world look at America as a place where it's supposed to be, where it should be, where it used to be, the land of the free. Of course, it's our goal to take it back. Meanwhile, we have here today a good friend of mine from Italy, exactly from, it's a little town close to Rome. I think it's called Aprilia. Giovanni, are you there? Ci sei, Giovanni?
Sì.
Giovanni, how are you, Giovanni? Come stai?
Ci sono.
Ok, Giovanni,
Bene,
I know.
molto bene. Io
Try to speak English. I know you don't speak English very much, but I'll try to help you with the English translation. Giovanni, say
dimmi.
say something in English. Di qualcosa in inglese.
My name is Giovanni D'Amico.
Okay.
Più che di Gianluca.
Okay, so your name is Giovanni D'Amico. Very good, Giovanni. I'll help you out. Ti aiuto io con l'inglese. I'll help you out with the English, okay? Now, Giovanni, where are you from exactly? Which part of Italy? Di dove sei? Che parte d'Italia?
Is Aprilia, Rome.
Okay, Giovanni is from Aprilia. It's a little town, a few miles from Rome. Giovanni, cosa fai per vivere? What do you do for living?
Il mio lavoro sono dirigente di officina autorizzata Mercedes Smart Roma.
Okay, so Giovanni is a business owner. He owns a shop for Mercedes, for authorized Mercedes shop. So, Giovanni, what do you do exactly? You fix cars, take care of cars. Che fai tu esattamente con le Mercedes? Le ripari, le sistemi, che fai? Tagliandi?
Sono collaudatore di vetture e dirigo l'officina del personale.
Ho capito. So Giovanni, he loves cars, okay? Yeah, he's into cars, that is career. Now, Giovanni, what is your dream? What would you like to do? Qual è il tuo sogno? Cosa vorresti fare?
Vorrei fare il mio sogno è vivere in America.
Okay, so your dream is to come to America. Now,
to come fare una grande attività in America.
I would like to start a business in America. Now, Giovanni, I have a problem though. Giovanni, listen to me. Zitto un attimo, ascoltami. You want to come to America? Vuoi venire in America? You want to come to work to America? Ok, vuoi venire a lavorare in America? Great.
Yes.
Ma l'inglese, the English language, how are you going to work here? Come parli con i tuoi clienti qua? Con i segni? With the signs? Are you going to do like what?
I miei clienti dove? In Italia o
in America? If you want to come to America, which language are you going to talk? Speak.
Il mio handicap è la lingua
americana.
Non riesco a parlare
o
capire l'inglese.
Okay, Giovanni just said that he has an handicap, of course, is the language. So he doesn't speak any language at all. Now, Giovanni, I will give you a solution how to learn the English. Mo ti do la soluzione dei tuoi problemi, come imparare l'inglese. Listen to me. You must find a good-looking American woman. Devi trovare una donna americana bella who she wants to teach you English, che ti vuole insegnare l'inglese, okay? But as a payback, because you know she's going to teach you, ti devi dare qualcosa, sta qua, ti insegna l'inglese, che gli fai? You must at least give her a free vacation to Italy. Gli devi dare una vacanza gratis in Italia. How does it sound?
Non c'è problema, non è un problema.
Okay, so this is the deal. Listen, American women, this is big, okay? Giovanni is a good guy. I know Giovanni very well since I was in Italy before I left to America, okay? We had a lot of dreams together. We used to talk about dreams to come to America together. I left and he stayed there. Now, he doesn't speak any English, but he has a good heart, okay? On top, he has a lot of beautiful cars. Giovanni, che macchine c'hai che vai in giro tu? Diciamo qualche cosa a queste signore americane. Che macchina la porteresti in giro? Con che macchina?
Ho dalla S, sempre categoria Mercedes, S, SLK, C, CLS.
Ok, Mercedes, ok.
Ferrari,
ok, stop there. Giovanni, stop there là. Allora, American women. Giovanni is looking for a good American woman with a lot of patience, of course, because, you need patience with Giovanni, ok? Con un sacco di pazienza, che you will teach English to Giovanni over Skype, okay? So Giovanni wants to learn English. He is willing to learn English, okay? And you teach to Giovanni to speak English, and Giovanni, he will welcome you to Italy on a beautiful paid vacation, okay? And also he will drive you around on a Ferrari. E tu lo porti in giro a fare una girata con la Ferrari, okay? I think that sounds like a good deal. Now, Giovanni, if the American ladies want to meet you, I will put your link, your Facebook link, on our site, lovegunsfreedom.com. Let me translate. Giovanni, metterò la tua foto sul mio sito, lovegunsfreedom.com, così le donne ti potranno vedere e ti contatteranno direttamente tramite Facebook, ok? Are you still there? Ci sei? Giovanni è scappato. Anyway, this is the deal, guys. It's kind of funny because Giovanni is a character. If you want to spend some time with Giovanni, teaching him a little bit about English, to communicate with English, Giovanni will pay the airplane fare, he will pay a vacation, accommodation, and meals, and also will drive you around as your personal chauffeur, your personal driver around Rome. All you have to do is spend some time with him on Skype. Hopefully the communication line is going to be better than this one. This was kind of a disaster, and you can go to Italy for free. All you have to do is a little bit of patience to teach to Giovanni English. That would be the deal. So that's the deal for today. And this is the section for freedomlovers.us. As I said, we want to also reach other freedom-loving people from around the world. And Giovanni, I think, is a great guy. As I said, he's a big heart. It's a funny guy. He has only a big problem. He doesn't speak any English. And this is funny because coming from me that I'm not exactly a English professor, but at least, I had the opportunity to be here a few years, and I think I do more than the average for sure. So listen, guys, thank you very much. Don't forget, if you want to visit Giovanni, meet Giovanni, see how he looks, and go to lovegunsfreedom.com. Also go to freedomlovers.us. You'll find them also there, okay? And don't forget also, if you're a single and you want to become part of the show, this is something that I really invite you to do. It's free. Just send me an email. Go to my website, and also on Facebook you can find me. And send me an email with your photo and also with your little bit about you. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're a man, woman, or behind. Those can be between. All I care that you're a good person, that you believe in freedom, or you believe in respecting other people's rights. And I'd be very happy to welcome you and to introduce you to the rest of the audience. So don't go away. Now it's a little bit of time for music. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. Ciao.
Can't wait another day without you, and I can't survive. Just give me a chance one more time. You are my sunshine in these dark times. You're my eastern star. Yes, you're my light. You are my life. Don't but I can't survive without you. Another day without you, another night without you, another day without you, another night without you, another day without you, another night without you, another day without you, another night without you.
That was Another Day, Another Night, music and lyrics by Luca Zanna, myself. As I said many times, you can find all my songs on iTunes or Amazon.com, of course also my website, lovegunsfreedom.com, and also on my other website, the music website, zanna.us.
You're gone far away, I'm all alone, that's my way. I remember the words we said, the last fight that we had. I feel sorry, baby, please don't be sad, please don't be sad. Time, it never stops, it fades away. All I have left is yesterday. I'll remember until I die, love shining in your eyes, all the dreams we had. But I made you cry, I made you cry. Life without you, I hope you don't miss me, baby, like I miss you inside of me. I will keep alive our memories and love until I die, until I die. You're gone far away, I'm all alone, that's my way. I just hope we could be friends, every dream has an end.
And that was another song of mine, Now That You're Gone. Today, of course, you can hear the mood I am, kind of nostalgic, romantic, call it whatever. Anyway, we are getting now close to the final part of the show. I want to thank you again. You know, this is for me a great opportunity, as I said many times, the opportunity to share my feelings, my ideas, my dreams, my hopes, sometimes also my fears. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I apologize also for my sometimes communication skills, trying to improve as much as I can my English. But anyway, at least I want to thank you again and be ready now to hear also the final part of the show, because I think you're going to like what's coming right now. I want to also to remind you that if you want to advertise on the show, just contact me directly. Go to lovegansfreedom.com. There is my email on the homepage, zanna@zanna.us, and I'll be happy to find out for you any type of opportunity to help each other. Okay, this is a free show. That means we keep freedom and truth first. Stay tuned. Now, final part of the show, final part of this romantic part of the show, I have some recordings of that I took personally in Rome, live. There are sounds, voices, noises from Rome. Since our guest was Giovanni, that is from Italy, and I thought it would be fun to have a little bit of almost like a journey without traveling, just with the sounds of what used to be Rome, at least when I was there last time, more than 17 years ago. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. And don't forget that you can replay the show. You can find the show again on the website, lovegunsfreedom.com, and also on Guerrilla Media Network. It will be rebroadcast, okay? So stay tuned, don't go away, and be ready for the final part of the third hour. We will talk about recipes and maybe even some surprise, because it's not just about food, but also about soul. This is the third hour about love. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna.
And now we are in Rome, in Via dei Fori Imperiali, in front of the Colosseum. And now you're going to listen typical bad words from the people of the streets of Rome.
Ma li mortacci tua! A stronzo! Ma vaffanculo! Li mortacci tua!
These are not compliments anyway. Now you're going to listen the typical noises of the chariot of Rome. This is the Trevi Fountain, the most famous fountain of Rome. Typical Roma compliment for beautiful women. Now we are in Venezia Square with the noises of the people and the cars and the traffic. This is the subway on Spanish steps. The last ciao from Alberto of the Audace Gym of the Colosseum from Rome.
My name is Alberto Santarelli dall'Audace di Roma, un salutone da tutti gli sportivi, atleti e tutti gli americani. 1, 2, 3, ciao!
Ciao!
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Luca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Luca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. Hi everybody, this is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom, hour number 3. It's all about love. Love and cooking, of course. So in this hour right now, I am broadcasting from my kitchen. And can you hear it a little bit? We are here with pot and fire boiling and water boiling. And let's talk about the recipe of today. Today's recipe is summer, and sometimes you don't want to cook. It's kind of hot, at least here in the state of Arizona. And today I want to do a very nice, good-looking, I'm saying, delicious Italian recipe of pasta. And I say good-looking because it also looks great, and it's so easy and simple. I call it pasta salad. Probably it's different from what normally you may have had in the past, but this is my way I do my pasta salad. First of all, you need pasta, and in this case today I'm using fusilli. That is a short pasta, and I have organic pasta from Trader Joe's. It's very good, I like it. Also very good price too, $1.29 from Italy, USDA organic. We have 1 pound of organic pasta. Now let's look at the ingredients. Meanwhile, just to let you know, I have here beautiful stainless steel pot with water boiling, because we're going to boil the pasta, of course. The ingredients for this pasta salad are, first of all, we need pasta, then we have cherry tomatoes. It's very important we get the best ingredients here when it comes down to quality and freshness. I always suggest you to grow your own ingredients if you can, especially vegetables and herbs. They are very easy and simple to grow. In this case, I have cherry tomatoes from my own garden. Very good. About probably 1 full cup, okay? Then we are talking about second ingredient, it is garlic, okay? Even garlic is very easy to grow, so if you can do it, otherwise buy good garlic. Try to get it organic and from the US. Then we need as a basic final ingredient is basil, fresh basil. Even the basil, no excuses, you can grow in a little vase. You don't need to have a big farm, okay? Now, what do? First of all, I chopped the tomatoes in small parts, okay? And I chopped the garlic. Let me start. Okay, I'm chopping the tomatoes. Takes a little time. Now, I didn't say something. We should have some mozzarella cheese. Right now I don't have fresh mozzarella, unfortunately. It's hard to get. So today I am using pepper jack. That is completely different from mozzarella, but doesn't matter. I'm going to chop this, let's say about probably 1 cup of pepper jack cheese in small parts. You can do it in little shredded parts or in just little cubes, doesn't matter, okay? But you want to cut it. So right now what I'm doing, I cut the garlic in small pieces. I'm cutting the tomatoes in these small pieces, and of course I'm chopping the cheese, okay? all this in a beautiful big bowl, okay? Big bowl where I'm going to pour the pasta. Now, it's very important that you get all these ingredients together. Just chop them together, okay? That's it. Let it sit. And final ingredient, as we said, we also have the basil that I will pretty soon chop in small parts. Now, what I'm going to do, it is like a big mix. You have tomato, you have garlic, you have cheese, and of course now we have the basil. Here we go. And you also here use the leaves of the basil in small little parts. Now, final thing, it is very important, you must get some extra virgin olive oil. Be careful, be sure that you get the best olive oil. You don't want to use some other oil, otherwise you will have a very strange flavor. So, how much oil? Probably about, let's say, 4 or 5 tablespoons, okay? Here we go, that's plenty. So, now I have this beautiful mix with tomato, chopped cheese, small little garlic, basil. All I want to do is add some salt and ground pepper. As I said before, for the salt, I always try to use sea salt if it's possible. Natural sea salt. Here we go. And a little bit of ground pepper. Let me go with that. Here we go, ground pepper. All these ingredients are raw, not cooked. Now, it's important that they stay together. I say stay together. They pretty much, you let them stay in this bowl for at least 20 minutes. Exactly the time while the water is boiling. By the way, right now I have water. As you can hear it, is boiling. And I will start to put the pasta into the water. Here we go. When the water boils, I drop this pound of pasta. Now, meanwhile, I also want to put some salt into the water with the pasta. Not much, because you can always add it, okay? Normally I said you gotta taste it. Depends on your flavor, depends on your taste. So, right now, it's so simple, as I said. We have the bowl with tomatoes, cheese, garlic, and basil. Sprinkle with sea salt and a little bit of ground pepper. And all these flavors are mixing together. That's the idea. You let them sit. Meanwhile, the pasta is boiling. Okay? The pasta will be boiled probably about, this fusilli, they say, 8 minutes. Okay? And of course, as I said, you should try every time, because every bag, every different brand has a different time. But doesn't matter. You just taste them and want to be sure that they are al dente. When they are ready to go, what do? You drain them. And we will go there, and I'll tell you the final, easy, simple step to complete this delicious, healthy, and very easy salad pasta. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. A little bit of music now, and talk to you soon after the pasta is ready to be poured into our special sauce. Here we go, we are back. Luca Zanna on Love, Guns and Freedom. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom. And we are finalizing this incredible, easy, but delicious Italian recipe. It's called Italian pasta salads. And it's so simple. Even a little child can do it. Now, the pasta is boiling. I think it's ready. It's al dente. You want a little bit more al dente than normal. Taste it. That's the best way to figure it out when it's al dente. Now, don't forget that we have on this bowl here waiting to hug the pasta. This beautiful, simple, but delicious mix of tomato, basil, garlic, and chopped cheese. Little cubes of cheese. Normally I would use mozzarella, but today, since I don't have mozzarella, we are using pepper jack. I know it's a little variation. Don't forget that all these ingredients, they've been sitting here for about 20 minutes with oil, extra virgin olive oil, and sea salt. This is important because the flavors, they're all mixing together, okay? And it's so simple, but so good. Don't forget, as I said many times, great ingredients will make great recipes, especially when you have Italian cuisine that is very honest, simple. I would consider almost poor recipes. It means poor with poor and simple ingredients. Exactly the opposite from maybe some French, more sophisticated cuisine. So, I always suggest you to grow your ingredients so they are always fresh. You know that they are away from the chemicals and other things like GMO. If you can't grow it, well, start to select the place where you can buy it. Now, the pasta is ready to go. If you hear me a little bit, painting here, fainting, whatever you want to say, I'm moving pot and microphones and trying to drain this pasta right now. Here we go. We drain the pasta. Okay, pasta has been drained. Now, you want to be sure the pasta is completely drained. And at this point, I drop the pasta, I toss the pasta in this beautiful big bowl with all these ingredients. I let the pasta sit here for at least, let's say, 5-6 minutes. I want to be completely cool off, okay? Because you also want to toss it around, move it around, mix it up, because you want to be sure that all the ingredients, they're beautifully mixed together. Now, this was the pasta salads. It's simple, it's easy, and delicious. And please, feel free to share also your recipes. Feel free to share how this recipe is going to pretty much come if you do it, if you cook it. Send me an email. Go to zanna@zanna.us, or you can go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com. You can find out on my homepage my email there. So I really appreciate your input, your feedback, and maybe we can also have a little competition. We can share recipes.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
And that was the recipe of the day. We spent together 3 hours. As you can see, the show has evolved. I used to have 1 hour show and I was trying to cram as much as I could in 1 hour. But as you know, the name of the show, it's Love, Guns, and Freedom. I didn't say guns, freedom, love. I said love, guns, and freedom. The reason why I put love first, because I believe love, at the end of the day, is the number one weapon against evil. Is also the motivator to achieve freedom. Without love, we have no sparkle. We have no willing to sacrifice ourselves for the common cause of freedom. And also, as you see, the first hour we talk about rights, sometimes also very sophisticated and sometimes even deep concepts. Today we talk about the land patent, something that I believe it's very important to learn. Even for sure, it doesn't sound so at the beginning easy to understand. Then we talk about gun rights or gun training. The second hour, it's all about guns. Now we see the final hour of the show, hour number 3. It is about love. We started with the single. We had this unique, incredible, funny guy from Italy, my friend Giovanni. And also we shared the recipe. But now, the final part of this hour, I would like to talk a little bit about poetry. As you heard, I call myself a poet. I'm a songwriter. All my songs, you heard some of them on the show the last few months, they always begin most of the times from a poem, because the song is created by poetry, or at least for me, it starts from lyrics and evolves into music. So I have today for you some ideas of poetry that they never really became music, but I think they could become some sort of an idea to share my other side. And I understand sometimes people say, I want to talk about guns, and people sometimes stereotypes the fact that you like guns, you like freedom. Maybe you're just, some sort of a macho guy and some sort of a militia guy. Nothing wrong to be a man, nothing wrong to be involved into the militia. But also I believe, at least speaking for myself, every one of us has another side, a soft side, or also a secret side that I like to share with you. And the idea I want to share with you is because I believe that sometimes we want to show to these people who does not understand individual rights, who hates our individual rights, like gun rights, that not because you like guns means that you're a violent person. Not because you're into the Second Amendment, you're a person who wants to use the weapon. I believe that showing that we have also a human side is called also the soft side. For me, it's like to show that we try to also connect people that people never thought about guns, to see that maybe, hey, if you like guns, you don't need to be some sort of a violent person. You also can be a poet, or can be some sort of different guy in this case, like poetry, and that's what I do. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I have a poem that it's about Rome. Today we spoke about Rome, so why not? I thought it would be something interesting to share. I wrote this before I left Italy, about 16 years ago. And I wrote it exactly, there is a hill facing the Colosseum with the subway. It was evening, and I wrote it there.
Roma. When the Ponentino wind softly blows through your 7 hills, it gently caresses your golden platined leaves. When the moon lightens your ancient buildings and streets, the heroes of your past again you breathe. You become alive. I can hear your heart's beats. I stare at the stars, reflecting on the placid Tiber, the Rome's heart, an eternal river. Under the shadow of the Janiculus trees, a young couple first fight, and then make peace. Rome, wherever I will go, you will be in my heart, forever.
And that was Rome, a poem I wrote long time ago in Italy by Luca Zanna. I want to close the show with a song, an instrumental song. It's called Temptation. I wrote this song probably about 2002, 2003, something like that. I was here in Italy, in America, starting my new journey. And I used to work at the beginning, the first few months of my experience before I started my own business. I used to work on Sunset Strip. in a club. And there I wrote this song, Temptation, music by Luca Zanna. And you can download these songs, of course, also on iTunes, Amazon.com. Also, if you go to my website, zanna.us. Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening. And this was Luca Zanna on Love, Guns, and Freedom on 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Networks. Talk to you next week. Ciao.